YouTube? Welcome, Dano here. This is another haul video. I'm going to show off the goodies I got at the auction for my local comic store that was closing. Just want to say all the best to Mike, the owner of the store. He's going through a pretty tough time. Store closing and some other personal things. But he's a great guy, and I just wish him the best going forward. So let's start off. I think I indicated in my previous video that they auctioned off everything in the store. So all the toys, statue, comics, of course, trades, back issues, and then everything right down to the, display stands, fixtures, the hooks on the wall, the clock, any furniture. So, I think it was pretty traumatic event there. For Mike, I tried to spend a little time with him, and my wife did too. So anyways, it's kind of mixed feelings about this because, I wanted to be at the auction, to get some stuff, hopefully at a good price, and also to support him because the more people there, the better prices he would get for this stuff. And, but at the same time, it's, really sad day. So I don't know, mixed feelings about it. Certainly wish him the best. And here's what I got. So I got a couple of pops. I got this one for my wife. It's Wilson Fisk from Daredevil. She really liked the character from the Netflix show, and been looking at this one for like a year and a half, and so I got that for $5. And the only other pop I bought was Black Manta here. Got that one for $4, so happy to do that. I don't do a whole lot with pops, but I have a few. So happy to get those too, especially at that price. Got a bunch of trade paperbacks. My wife's a big fan of American Vampire. She's like a couple trades in. This is number 6, I believe. So she's not up to this yet, but I paid $3 for it, so saves paying full price later. Also got the Ed Brubaker run of Catwoman here. Very cool. Got three volumes of Catwoman. So those are nice books. The retail on these is like $25, so I got paid $4 a piece for those. Some Green Arrow, Mike Grell. Happy to get that. Trial of Oliver Queen. So I think it's like $3 for those. The way they did the auction, they would go to like one shelf out of, there's like 12 shelves of trade paperbacks, and they would, take the highest bid. Whoever bid the highest got their first choice for any book off that particular shelf. So if the bidding went up to say $20, which it did in a couple of spots, you would pick whatever book you wanted for $20. You could actually pick as many as you wanted for $20 each. And then once whoever won the bid selected what they wanted, they would pretty much just let anybody else grab anything they wanted at that price. So at $20, if nobody else wanted anything at that price, they'd start the bidding over again. So maybe the bid would go up to $10 this time. Whoever won it would take what they wanted. Anybody else who wanted in at $10 would grab some books, and I did that all the way down until the bid was like $2. And with every single shelf, once people had, taken, probably about half the books off them, this guy would bid $2 and take them all, take everything that was left. So he ended up with hundreds of trade paperbacks at the end of the day for $2 a piece. So, little something different here. This is EC's Frontline Combat. I believe these are either from the late 40s or early 50s. It's the first 6 issues. It's a nice hardcover, book. See if we can open this up. It's all in color in the middle. Story on Rommel right there. Desert Fox. I have to read that one. So this is pretty cool. I mean, these stories go back a ways. You can see the cover price on this is $50. I got it for $3. I'm guessing, I'm a kind of a sucker for the war books, and always on the lookout for them. But they're pretty, they're pretty hard to find. Most comic book stores don't carry much. They might have a short box somewhere with a few Sergeant Rocks in them, but for the most part, if it's not a superhero, the comic book store isn't really interested in stocking it as a back issue, with the exception of, Walking Dead or some of the other Image type titles. But I'm guessing somebody ordered this and then never picked it up, which, was kind of the bane of the comic book store owner's existence. So, and that's why it was on the shelf. But happy to have it for $3. Here's another item that probably fits in that category of somebody ordered it and then never picked it up. I'm guessing. But this is the Complete Daily Newspaper Comics, Volume 4 for Walt Disney's Donald Duck from 45, 46, and 47. This is kind of cool. My dad, as you guys know from earlier videos, is a huge Donald Duck fan. Sorry, I get my hand out of the light there. So I'm always on the lookout for Donald Duck stuff for him, for gifts and whatnot. So another thing they did at the auction was when they got down to like the modern comics, they were all in these, like Batman would have a slot, and Harley Quinn, and all the each comic book had its own slot on this shelf, and so they auctioned off the slots, and after those were done, they would auction off a row of slots. So I won, or somebody else probably had the highest bid, and then I said I'd go in there and take one for the winning price, which was $4. So I got 20 comics, 20 fairly new recent comics for $20. Some of them are a little beat up, but I shouldn't have any trouble selling most of these, I don't think. This isn't all of them, but just a few highlights, I guess. Betty and Veronica #2, Harley Quinn, Scooby Apocalypse, and a bunch of Scooby Apocalypse. There's an Aquaman, more Scooby, another Betty and Veronica. And this is book 3 of that limited series Dead Man that came out. I don't know if it was late last year or early this year, but that's, it's got a cover price of $6. So I got these books plus, I don't know, I think this is like 10 books. I got another 10, mostly like Cyborg and a few more Scooby-Doo type things. But, you know, for $4 for 20 fairly new books, figured it wasn't going wrong anytime soon. And I just bought that one slot. Got a few more trades to show off here, I guess. Here's Bombshells number 3. Well, volume 3, I should say. I think that was a $3 purchase. Deathstroke, volume 2. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Anarchy, so I've got the individual issues that make this up, but I thought I'd grab the trade for $3. And then I got some hardcover ones too. So these are new 52 hardcovers. So Aquaman, it's a Detective Comics, and I don't know if you can tell, but they're still sealed. They're still, you know, shrink wrapped. And then another Aquaman, volume 4. So happy to get those. All right. One last thing I got. This is, if you can see how clear that is, but it's Watchmen. It's the hardcover slipcased edition of Watchmen. Of all the things I bought, this is probably, you know, the questionable purchase, because I didn't know it at the time, but this, you know, has a bit of like a mildew odor to it. So I've got a system for removing that. I've never tried it on a hardcover before, so we'll see about that. But I paid $20 for this, you know, thinking it was in really good shape, and you know, that wasn't the case. But I think everything else I got is gonna make up for this one mistake. Yeah, if anything, you know, that the only other maybe questionable call was the Modern Comics for $4, but you know, I was trying to do some good too. So, all right, that brings us to, like, for me, what was super exciting. There was so they had a bunch of they must have had 100 boxes of comics in the back, and they waited to do those till the end. They had a few highlight comics. They had a New Mutants 98. They had Batman Adventures number 12, Hulk 181. They had some Sensation comics and early Wonder Womans from the 40s. So, you know, that's all super cool. They had a Giant Size X-Men number 1. So as far as the individual comics went, I didn't bid on the high dollar stuff. I think most of those went for, you know, like the Hulk 181 went for $8.50. I was looking at it before the auction started. You know, I think it was probably a fairly solid 6.0. So I think at $8.50 there's definitely room to get that, you know, maybe cleaned and pressed, get it graded, and then still be able to clear a few $100 on it. But that just wasn't a, you know, a risk I was willing to take. That's you know, a little above the dollar amount I like to operate at. So the Batman Adventures number 12 was in pretty beat up shape. It was probably you know, it might have been fine, probably more like fine minus, but you know, say it's fine plus. You know, it's just too recent a comic to, you know, to be buying in a mid-grade like that, I think. So it went for, I think, $225, which is, you know, probably a fair price. But again, being in the shape it was, I just wasn't gonna bid on it. You know, I think if it's some, you know, if I needed to move it at some point, I think it's probably easier to get, you know, to move a high grade copy. It had some real obvious dings on the cover, so, you know, so it definitely had some flaws. The New Mutants 98 also went for, I think it went a little bit more. I think maybe $250. It was a much better copy than the Batman Adventures, but again, that has not, being an ungraded copy, and you know, unless you get a 9.8 on that, I question the ability to make much money on it, and so that, again, that wasn't something a risk I was willing to take. They had an Amazing Spider-Man 238. It did not have the tattoos. That went pretty cheap, and I probably should have bid on that. You know, 20 bucks, maybe 25. I didn't, once I heard it didn't have the tattoos, I didn't really investigate more. I didn't try to grade it myself, so I'm not sure where that was at. This is 239, which is the second appearance of the Hobgoblin, and this is a pretty high grade copy. So I think I can, you know, trade this or sell this at some point. I got winning bid on this was $12.50. So I don't think I'm going to lose money on this for sure, and you know, have a shot at getting a little bit of return with a trade or just outright selling it. But this is a pretty high grade copy. All right, so that does it for the for like the highlight comics that they auctioned off, and then the trades and pops and stuff. They had a ton of, you know, pops and statues and gaming stuff to get through, and that seemed to take forever. And so in the meantime, I was digging through all these long boxes they had in the back, you know, wanting to make sure I got good, knew what was in the boxes, see what was worth bidding on, and so on. I'll put this up here. So, you know, out of the boxes, they had like 6 long boxes at the end of one table, and they all were divided. Here, they had like these little yellow dividers between sections. So, like all the Batman comics were between one section, and all the Spider-Man and all the X-Men and so on. And you know, these were nice comics. They were all bagged, at least, and most of them were bagged and boarded. They were in solid shape. Most of them were things that were reasonably sought after, whereas like I'm sure like 90 of those boxes were just filled with junk. And so I wasn't going to bid on hardly anything except this one long box that had the Batmans in it. So then it turns out they finally get to the back room to do the comics. And I'm pretty paranoid by this point that I've wasted time. I got there a little before 11 in the morning. The auction started at 11. And they didn't start auctioning these comics off till like 5 o'clock, 5:30. And so, you know, I had been participating in the first hour or two of the auction, but after that, I didn't really do anything. And because it just wasn't stuff I was interested in. You know, they're selling off all the fixtures and whatnot. So I'm like, man, there's only a few lots back here that I'd be even remotely interested in bidding on. Did I just waste the last 6 hours? So I'm back there with like a bunch of comic guys. You know, they're going through the boxes. I'm like, great. You know, none of these things are going to go for, you know, there's going to be a lot of competition for the good comics. And I had gone through the partial long box that had some Batmans in it. I had counted them. There was 179 different Batman comics and some graphic novels. You know, they seemed pretty high grade. I saw this first printing of The Killing Joke was buried in there. Seems like a pretty high grade copy. So what they did, they started the auction with these kind of high quality boxes. And I thought they were just going to auction off the long box, but they didn't. They auctioned off a section. So just like with the trade paperbacks, when they just started the auction, you were bidding on first choice of whatever section you wanted. And like I said, these are like 6 long boxes divided up into, you know, maybe 15, 20 sections of, they're probably more than that actually, because some of them are pretty small, sections of different titles. So the guy to my right, I know is a big comic guy. I know he knows what he's doing. Bidding starts and boom, like within 10 seconds, you know, it's way over $100, and he wins it for $165. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, that's more than I'm willing to put in on these. You know, even though they, like the Batmans that I wanted were probably worth it. But so then he grabs the section of X-Men. Now, the X-Men are decent. You know, they're in decent shape. But I'm not sure how many key issues there were. They were certainly no Silver Age X-Men in there. And I'm pretty sure they were, you know, all 200 and above number-wise. So figure that's what, late Bronze Age at the earliest, and probably a bunch of 80s and 90s X-Men, maybe all 80s. And there weren't that many of them, I didn't think. Not compared to the, you know, the Batmans. Like I said, I counted them. There was 179, so well over half the long box. And there was probably maybe a third that many, if I'm being generous. So maybe 60 X-Men. So he grabs the X-Men for $165. And, you know, to be honest, I don't know that much about it. So, you know, maybe he got a great deal. But, you know, I breathe a sigh of relief when he grabs the X-Men. But then I'm like, okay, now we're just going to do it all over again, and the bidding's going to get way out of control. Well, they start the bidding, and, you know, this guy starts the bidding usually at a pretty high price, like $50 or $100, and then he works his way down until somebody shows some interest, and then you go back up from there. So he's like $50, and, you know, there's no takers. So then he's like 10, 20, and so I bid 20. Somebody else bid 25, and I bid, I think, I don't know if it went up to $27.50 or if it's $5 increments from there, but I bid $30, and all of a sudden that was it. The auction was over, and he pointed at me, and I'm like, I won this? Are you serious? And so I'm like, I'll take the Batmans, and I can see kind of everyone like grab their, you know, face palm, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just let that happen. So, you know, I got the Batmans. I even had to ask the auctioneer again, like, hey, what was the hammer price again? And he's like, $30. I was like, oh, sweet. So let me show off some of these. Sorry for that long, rambling introduction. But there are good runs here of Gotham Knights. I've got some Detective Comics. I've got a bunch of Batmans. There's, you know, here's year 2. There's the McFarlane. I also have year 1 was in here. I've always liked this cover, so I'm happy to have it. It's got the Detective 27 framed on the wall there, and of course you got Sherlock Holmes on the cover. Some more detectives. Oh yeah, here's got some year 1. This is not a, you know, super high grade copy of Batman 404. I must say there's some creases and bumps, but you know, happy to have it. Got all 4 books in the year 1 storyline. I got all the complete Hush story. Hush is one of my absolute favorites. It's the reason it was the first Batman story I read and was instantly hooked. Here's some more detectives. Here's the rest of year 1. I believe this is an early appearance of Jason Todd, which is very cool. Batman 409. Got a bunch from the 500s. Like I said, the entire Hush storyline, the entire Broken City storyline. Here's the Dead Man Connection. I actually did a video on the Dead Man Connection. It's a 3-part story. That was one of the early videos I did. Batman 545. Pretty cool cover. 546. 523. 524. So there's also a bunch of like Shadow of the Bat, including number 1 through 4, that seem to be pretty high grade. I mentioned all the Hush books, which are high grade. And then there's a bunch of high grade Batman graphic novels in the back too. Some of them that I have not run across before. Some that I have and have seen. Oh, I got, you know, Batman the Cult. Got all 4 books of this. 2, 3, 4. There's Batman and Grendel. Batman and Spawn. Gotham by Gaslight. This I thought was pretty cool. Gotham Noir. And it's by Brubaker and Phillips, which, you know, they write all the noir graphic novels now. A whole bunch of them. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Hadn't heard of that one. Got a bunch of Legends of the Dark Knight. Got some Frank Miller. Dark Knight Strikes Again. So, you know, got a whole long box here. Boy, there must be, you know, 50 or 60 Gotham Knights. Yeah, here we go. Death in the Family. Batman Year 3. Kind of, you know, so kind of like these are all pretty high grade And a lot of them are kind of semi-keys or minor key books. So $30. Super stoked to have these. That's a pretty cool Joker cover there. So then I went, you know, I went back. I kind of, as they were like clearing stuff, you know, they clear out sections as people bid on them. You know, they emptied this long box except for the Batmans. I had one, so I just grabbed the long box. I thought, well, I'll go back and grab, you know, see what else is available. And they were, by the time I got back, you know, we were at like $2.50 for a section. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. There was a section that had like 4 Betty Page comics, and my wife had seen those before the auction started, and I knew she wanted them, so I'm like, you know, sure, I'll grab those for $2.50. And then, because I felt like an idiot taking 4 comics, you know, with a $2.50 winning bid, I was like, oh, I'm gonna grab one more section, and just kind of grabbed, you know, there's a big section of Sandman. I don't really know anything about Sandman other than it's Neil Gaiman, but you know, so I'm like, okay, I'll take those too. And so turned out to be 64 issues. It's I don't know how many are in the run of Sandman, but it's like issue 2 through 65, something like that. And I can show off a few of these. So I'm looking them up, and you know, like in the first few books I looked up, I found a couple that were you know, $30 books. So I, you know, pretty stoked about that too, because I just grabbed these as kind of a afterthought, because I didn't want to just take four comics in that one section of Betty Page stuff. So, you know, these are all bagged and boarded. They look like they're real high grade. You know, so here's number 7. Here's number 8, which is the first appearance of Death, apparently. So like this is, you know, somebody's asking $40 for that on eBay. I don't know if that's what it sells for, but that's what they're asking for it. And you can see they just look pretty nice. And so 64 issues of the Sandman for $2.50. So pretty stoked about that. And of course all these Batmans. I was so afraid that I had wasted, you know, 6 hours that afternoon, 5 hours, whatever, waiting to get to the comics. And then I was just so sure I was going to be crushed in the bidding for the Batman. So couldn't be happier about that. All right, this video's gone on long enough. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate everyone on YouTube and all their support and all the information. I watch other people's videos and learn something every single time. So thanks a lot. And, you know, everyone, be sending a good thought to Mike from Lightspeed Hobbies, because going through some rough times right now with the closing of his store. So, well, that's it, YouTube. Thanks a lot.